John Archer to give us the immortal memory for Burns. I know that John won't take as long as Sam Shelley, so you may listen and stay interested. John, thank you.
Well, Mr. President, Madam First Lady, honoured guests, members of Edinburgh Northern RFC, and forwards, good evening. As the more alert of those present at last year's Burns Supper will recall, and delighted to join us. As those more alert at those present at last year's Burns Supper will recall, and by alert, being sober. And actually, I don't really know why I'm wasting my time thinking that any of you were sober for much of last year. Anyway, last year I proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that Robert Burns had in his youth played rugby. And now, after months of the most painstaking research and long days spent in checking and discussing the results of this research, mainly at Kay's Bar, my new friend, Mr. Leach, ENRFC Supreme and keeper of all the records of the work-keeping and quite a lot of art. We've come to a startling and indeed world-shattering conclusion that we've proved beyond all reasonable doubt that Robert Burns, Scotland's greatest bard and eternal poet laureate, was in fact a member of an early incarnation of Edinburgh Northern. This evening, ladies and gentlemen, you are going to be the first to be privileged at the first public unveiling of this research. There have been rumours in the media. I am in the process of negotiating the paperback and serialisation rights with Playboy magazine. They've expressed strong interest in the film rights. However, so let's start by considering and testing the evidence. And I'll be asking any questions at the end, by the way. So, as the more erudite among you will know, with Ben Glasgow, don't worry if you don't know the meaning of our erudite. Never have to. Robert Burns was born on 25th of January 1759 in the village of Alloway in what is now South Ayrshire. This much is incontrovertible fact. Now, leaving aside the brothers Broomfrey Troon, Ayrshire has never really been renowned for its rugby strength. The locals there prefer to perpetuate their own series of civil wars on the association football pitches, at least whenever the UN can find enough peacekeeping forces to keep the rest of the neighbourhood under modicum of control. And two will bear this out. Steve the Now, Robert Burns does not feature in any of the team lists for the local football clubs, but as he was a good-looking young man with a liking for convivial companionship, we must assume that his sporting instincts would lead him inexorably to the game played by men with funny-shaped balls. Now, back to this fascinating historical stuff. In Scotland, many variations of handball had been played at least since Roman times, and very likely prior to the 1st century AD. So, when we consider that rugby is probably the most enduring, and certainly the most popular of all those variations of handballs, it stands to reason that this is the game that Burns must have played. Just a little aside here from forwards about handball. That's the sort of thing that forwards should never get involved in. Just you guys concentrate on pushing the other lot backwards over their own line and then flopping on top of the ball. That's what you're good at. Don't get ideas above your station and actually try to touch, pass or catch the ball. Leave all that stuff to numbers 9 to 15. They know what they're doing. You'll only get in the way and make a mess of things. Apologies for that slight. So, we've got Burns here looking to find a release for both his sporting and convivial instincts. There being no rugby in Ayrshire and Glasgow being no better than it is now, Burns was naturally drawn to the capital. Behind Scotia's darling seat, all hail my palaces and towers. So, Edinburgh was, and is most definitely, the place for all rugby players and bon vivants. An additional incentive may have been the large number of unattached women in the capital. And here I refer you to Rangers' Directory of Ladies of Pleasure in Edinburgh. published 1775 price £1, complete with a very handy folding map. And then take, as many did, for example, a certain Miss Peggy Alexander, resident in Marquise Close. A smart, genteel lass, about 20 years of age, dark brown hair, good teeth, fine skin, and extremely good-natured. It is something very odd that this lady, although admired by most of the male sex, is universally hated by the sisterhood. It does sound very strange to me, actually. She's got a very agreeable squint, which sets her off great and when she's in action, she heaves her little Cupid's kettle drums with great agility. Her languishing eyes speak very forcibly the language of love. She can accommodate any gentleman in a genteel manner at her own house. Actually, the house Colby Match was a house just off the Lawn Market, north side, and if you've got the time or inclination when this is finished. So anyway, to recap, and I always like a good recap because it adds speeches out nicely. Burns arrived in Edinburgh at the evening of 28 November 1786, looking for a rugby club and probably a shack. I mean, is there any other reason why Burns would arrive in Edinburgh in November? The festival was over, the weather would not be at its best, so the need to find a rugby club could be the only plausible explanation. Backing up the date is that in the good old days being so long ago that Ian Breakin and Mike Horner were still actually playing, the rugby season started on 1 September and ended on 30 April, and there was no nonsense about leagues, playing on Sundays, and extending the season to virtually the start of the next one. If you wanted to play on a Sunday, you had to go to Murrayfield, cap in hand, make your obeisances in front of John Law, the secretary of the SRU, before he graciously refused permission with his customary snarl. SRU and its love affair with feudalism. These were the good old days. So anyway, there was therefore no time to lose for Burns if he wanted to get in any rugby that season. But how did he get to Northern? Well, our next piece of evidence comes in a letter to a Mrs. Francesca Anna Dunlop of Dunlop, and I quote, there's a letter that Burns wrote to her. I was one day, last time I was in Edinburgh, with Mr. Mackenzie, a glorious man of feeling. So, there we have it. Burns apparently read Dave Mackenzie some poems, which, and again I quote in the same letter, he warmly begged me to send them to Mrs. Mackenzie, whose judgment he very deservedly, highly values, and she admired them so much that she anxiously wishes a copy. So, we've now got Burns meeting Dave Mackenzie. We don't know actually how this came about, but doubtless Burns would have heard of the exceptionally warm welcome accorded to all and sundry in Kay's bar, including camera inspectors, socialists, Whigs as they were called in these days, and also just having received a large lot of cash from publishing his poems chiefly in the Scottish dialect. Burns would have had enough cash for one, or possibly even 2 small rounds of drinks. Dave would undoubtedly have sent him down to Northern, and from there on, the rest is history. But this edifice that I have so carefully constructed is still a bit like a car left in the car park at Jack Kane Centre, precariously balanced on 4 piles of bricks. More evidence is needed, and it comes thus. Now, we've already touched on Burns' fondness for conviviality, and Edinburgh was very definitely the place for that. But the city was so full of clubs that it really resembled a medieval armoury. For instance, the Pious Club met every night, 7 days out of 7, in a pie house. Unsurprisingly, this club boasted one member who weighed upwards of 25 stone. That's 160 kilos for the benefit of the children here. Mike Cuthbert, even you are going to have your work cut out to beat that. The Boar Club, whose members communicated by grunts. It's a bit like having a teenager in the house. Incidentally, they met at Hogg's Tavern, obviously called after Boss Hall, a former coach of this club. Hellfire Club, whose president was known as the Devil. The Dirty Club, no gentleman to appear in clean linen. the Black Wigs. Guess what? All the members wore black wigs. The Odd Fellows, wrote their names upside down. 6 Foot Club, members to be at least 6 feet. Poker Club, the Mirror Club, the Easy Club, the Face Club. The Face Club, if a member didn't drain his glass in one, he then had to throw the remains of the glass into his face.
That's a club.
However, two of the most famous were, in fact, the Beggar's Benison in Amsterdam, just across the river, which had branches in both Edinburgh and St. Petersburg. The motto of this club being, "May prick and purse never fail." And if anyone needs any more information on the delectations offered by this early version of the Cubic Triangle, the book by David Stevens is available at £18.99 from Tuckball Press, or you can borrow my copy. There was also the White Club in Edinburgh, which it's a real shame that Dave Mackenzie is not here tonight, which was formed of the elite of the Tory establishment and gave them a forum in which they could dine, gamble, and venerate a wig reputedly made from the pubic hair of the mistresses of Charles II. It sounds very, very like the Tory halls and Daveson's Meads, actually. Anyway, the one club that Burns, however, would probably have joined was known as the Industrious Company. This club met on Saturday afternoons for a country dinner in Cannon Mills. Very handy. They kept their own claret and being so close to Invermead Park, it's very likely that prior to the building of the bunker, this would have been the watering hole for the Northern players after games, where they could have had their 18th century equivalent of pasta or pie and beans before slaking their thirst for claret. And Burns did enjoy himself after matches. Witness a letter to James Smith, 1787. "We fell in with a merry party and danced till the ladies left us at 3 in the morning. When the dear ladies left us, we ranged round the bowl till the good fell hour of 6. So, in the same way as his descendants of today, Burns was a great man for touring. Doubtless his jaunts to the borders and north of the Forth should be seen nowadays in the same way as our own club tours, bringing culture and elegance to the furthest parts of the continent of Europe. However, Burns wasn't content with only the women of Edinburgh, and he managed a dalliance or two during his trips to the borders, reminding us today of the question, what's the difference between Morocco and Hawick? In Morocco, the moors come down for the hills. But Burns' touring wasn't confined to far-flung and exotic places like Hawick. Again, a letter written in August 1786 from Stirling, he writes to Robert Muir, "Left Old Greeky yesterday morning and have passed, besides by excursions, Linlithgow, Forreston Ness, Grangemouth, and Falkirk, all you will know rugby playing towns of the Scotland tour." But Burns as well also seems to have had the gift of second sight to those people coming after him. And he's written some mock epitaphs to club members of the future. For instance, "Here lie Joseph Smith's auld banes. O Satan, when ye tak him, gie him the schooling of your wains, for clever deals he'll mak them." And again, for our club captain, Chris, "Lament him, Stockbridge husbands all. He often did assist ye, for had ye stayed hale weeks awa, your wives they ne'er had missed ye. Ye Stockbridge bairns, as on ye passed to school and bands together, would tread ye lightly on his grass, perhaps it was your favour." And if any more proof was needed that Burns had played at Invermead Park, here is evidence that the drainage on the first 15 pitch has not improved in the last 227 years. The wanton coot the water skims, among the reeds his clucking cry, the stately swan majestic swims, and everything is blessed but I. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would ask you to charge your glasses and be upstanding, those of you who still can.
Charge those glasses. Charge glasses. That is not